All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back here with episode 2 of our college cinema talk show here. So again, Ryan, Connor, and Greg, and this time we're going to be talking about a movie which was made based off of a book trilogy, and it's The Maze Runner. So it's the first of 3 uh, books and ended up being first of 3 movies. And I don't know how we wanted to go about this. I guess we can go about starting off with our general thoughts of just quick reactions here of what we thought when the movie first began. I guess I'll start with Greg. Greg.
Yeah,
When the
Greg, what
movie
did you
first
think?
started, what did you think? That first like minute.
Well, first,
What was the reaction when he's going up in that elevator, uh, and he's freaking out?
Well, first of all, I had seen the movie my freshman year of high school,
Okay.
so I couldn't really remember a lot. But
I think we
because
maybe
I read
saw it together.
we did.
I think maybe we did.
I think we saw the score.
Oh, we saw the
score
Scorch Trials. You're right. All right,
We
continue.
saw
Greg.
that. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, we did. I forgot about that.
We
Yeah.
did.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, we did.
I actually remember the Maze Runner more than I remember the Scourge Trials. But have you guys read the books or not?
Yes.
Yes, I apologize. I should have started with that. So real quick, that was a good point you made, Greg. Have you read the books?
I'm not.
So you've not read the
Okay.
books.
So you don't really know this. You're not as familiar.
So you
with
don't
the
know like the
story.
whole background and okay. Connor, have you read the books?
Yeah, I have. I don't know a long time, but I mean, like, I wouldn't be able to recall details like exact plot points, but
Okay.
I know the story.
Okay. So I also read the books. I've read them like at least twice. I might have read some of them 3 times. So I really like the books back in like middle school and early high school.
Okay.
Like yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah,
Anyways,
thank you for
what,
bringing that up.
Greg, go ahead with what you were saying about the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
Oh well. Beginning of the film, I felt like it was just pretty mainstream. Like getting this like really weird start. Someone doesn't know what's going on.
Okay.
Like I don't know, just pretty predictable.
Okay.
I didn't think it was earth shattering. I didn't think it I just thought, interesting concept, like bringing a human up with the monthly supplies. But yeah, no,
Did that feeling last like throughout the movie? Did you always feel like it was kind of predictable and kind of like mainstream and stuff like that?
yeah, I did because, it's like, of course, this guy, the protagonist, it's all centered around like, of course, he's probably going to save the day and like he's going to have the answers. Like, I just think
did he save the day?
Very, very like, I think they're predictable, but it's still good. It was still a good movie. Well done.
Yeah.
Okay. Connor, what did you think?
Well,
no, just first minute and a half.
Well, so I like how it opened in kind of blackness and just kind of like hearing sounds like of the elevator and whatnot. I mean, I always like when movies do that because it like makes you curious and like it shows that they appreciate like sound and stuff like that. And like going up in the elevator is fine, it's whatever. I mean, it's a good start because you're kind of like, what's going on? You're like there with him. Like especially if you haven't read the books, you're like, what's happening? And also like when he first like runs and he like sees where they are and like in the glade and it like looks beautiful and you're like, wow, like they put some money into this, like it looks good. I think that's like it's like a pretty good start. It starts off well is what I would say.
Okay.
However, so I'll continue with a little bit of positive stuff, which is the exposition at the beginning. Like it felt really natural when they're like, because they're explaining it to him because he doesn't know anything, just like we don't know anything. So like we kind of get that with him. But then that kind of just goes on for like the rest of the movie. Like we're always getting told stuff instead of shown stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, I don't know. Like for example, like Ben, oh look, it's Ben's clothes. Like the Grievers must have took him here. Or like at the end, even, okay, I don't know if we want to get into the end right now, but like even at the end when they see that video of like the doctor, she's like dumping more exposition on them about like the state of the world and stuff like that. And it's like always people talking. Like I agree with Greg that it felt kind of like predictable a lot of the time. Like I don't know, the first time that I can think of is like, when Minho and Albie are like coming back from the maze and like there's like standing there like, come on guys, like get back here. And, like Thomas is like watching. I'm like, he's gonna run in there. Like there's no way he's not. And like which is like, it's predictable because like it was what makes good storytelling, right? But also there's not really a suspense that could be there if it was a little bit off the books. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Yeah, sure.
But I agree with Greg that it felt kind of predictable a lot, and it was really the exposition throughout the whole thing. Like everybody's always talking about stuff instead of actually like experiencing it, which was what kind of got me kind of like, you know.
That's an interesting point. Before I go into what I thought, at the beginning, I kind of wanted to address that. I guess I'll start just at the beginning. So like I said, I read the books multiple times, so I kind of know a decent amount, and I remember. You said you don't remember like a lot of the plot points and like maybe smaller stuff, but I'd say I remember like a pretty fair amount of it. And so like from the beginning, just like I mentioned this to Connor earlier, but just like in that box they called it, or the elevator, there's already a barrel that said Wicked on it, and just kind of foreshadowing for people who like maybe have read the books, see that at the beginning. So I thought that was kind of neat. They drop little things like that in there. Like Connor said, I thought that was cool. Thomas gets out, and for you guys to say it's predictable, sure, there are some parts that are predictable, but I would argue that the idea of somebody having no memory of who they were and everything like that, kind of, to me, I kind of enjoyed that, because it made it easier for a movie like this to explain a lot of stuff that book readers would have no idea like what was going on. So because like Thomas could ask those questions, and other characters could answer without it being weird, like, oh, he already knew that, why would he ask that? But it allowed them to explain a lot of things. And see, I wanted to address what you said about like there's a lot of talking, not showing, and action and stuff. With stuff like this, with movie franchises based off of books, I feel like that's really hard, something that's hard to do, right? Because there's a lot of like minute details in these books that make like this whole overarching like a universe and idea and world like what it is. So I'm sure like they had to try to balance, like, all right, so we want to include a lot of the stuff from the book, because like this clearly was a really successful like franchise. But yeah,
I think that sometimes it's like when it's the book, right? Like it's easy when you're reading the book, because you're like taking all this information in like a written format. Whereas like in a movie, sure, it like makes it easier with the memory thing, like for them to like explain to him, and it's like not unnatural. It's like, yeah, sure, like he would have those questions and they would answer him and tell him about it and stuff. But at the same time, like I still want to be watching something interesting, and it wasn't like disinteresting. Like I feel like there are better ways. Like after a while, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, like here's another question, another answer,
Okay.
And I know that there's like sometimes a hard way. It's hard to go about it when you're coming from a book like that, which is why I don't think that like good books always make the best movies.
Right, and that's what I was gonna say.
Different mediums.
I would guess that you would like the book more than the movie, because you could fit all the detail into the book, but you have like constraints for the budgetary and like time constraints for the movies. That's probably why most people like the books more.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. And I also wanted to point out one more thing that Connor said. I believe, Connor, did you say that you liked the whole, like, did you say, was it mystery, like at the beginning with like him not, like you just kind of like not knowing, or was it Greg? Someone
I
said,
did like how you were kind of there with
kind of
him.
like don't know like what's really going on, and you kind of because I also pointed that out when I watched.
I do like that, but like only to an extent, right? Like, there's some points where I'm like, I do like the concept of that, but I don't like sometimes like how they approached it. Like, I want to be like discovering this stuff with him, not being like told it with him.
So I kind of want to go off on this for a minute. Either of you can answer this. I want to kind of challenge you with a little question. Is there a specific, I mean, this is more Connor, I guess, but is there a specific moment that you can remember that they told you about something in the maze and you didn't get to see it? Because I would say that for the most part, while I will say they waited to show you, for example, like the Grievers, waited a while to show you those, which I don't know if that was.
Those are weird.
The best thing. I mean, they want to draw out the whole idea of fear, like the whole like like nervousness thing, like I guess, and mystery. But I don't know. Is there anything like that you can remember, like that they just kind of told and didn't? I don't know. If there's not, that's okay.
I mean, like obviously the stuff at the beginning, like oh, like everybody comes up once a month in the box, like that's fine because like we saw him come up in the box and like everything like that, and they're like one person comes up every month. But like things that I was thinking about would be like when he's talking to Newt and like Newt's like, oh, Albie knows better than any of us, and Tom's just like, what does that mean? And then they're like, oh, he was like the first one to come up here. Like,
Do you wish
I'm
they
not
showed that in
saying
a flashback or something instead?
not necessarily like a flashback, but like I want the like Thomas to like take an action to like learn that information.
A flashback would be cool though.
Yeah, a flashback would be cool, but like I understand that might take up a lot of time, but maybe instead he like overhears a conversation and like realizes that way, like it's something that
I see.
he's like, yeah, he's like, there's something not right going on.
Well, you know
You're
what
saying like, okay, sorry, you go ahead, Greg.
No, I'm sorry. No, you know what I like a lot is like when you have like that wise like character, like who's been there, knows what to do. Like I like it when they like pull the ignorant person aside and like have kind of a dramatic like kind of monologue almost like about their like life and their wisdom.
Yeah.
So I think that would have been kind of cool too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Connor, like you're saying, like if Thomas like overheard Albie talking about like his time when he was by himself or something with someone else or something,
or like maybe he doesn't, or maybe he doesn't even like prompt it with a question, like what do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe he's just like, maybe they're just like interacting and it becomes kind of like a conflict almost, and then it just kind of comes out like we need to listen to him because he was the first one here, or like something like that, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
I don't know, I just, okay, if I'm looking for like another example, maybe like when he's learning about like the grievers and they're like, not necessarily like showing the grievers, but like oh, what's wrong with him? Like, oh, he's just gonna like get crazy, he's like talking nonsense, and like
When
maybe
they're talking
Thomas
about
could
Ben
be
or
yeah,
Albie.
yeah, maybe Thomas could be like there with them, like and like watching it happen, you know,
I
something
see.
like that.
Like watch him get stung, or at least we're there watching it.
Oh, not like when he got stung, but like after they like captured him and he could like maybe he would like go back and visit and like check to see what's going on with Ben, like actually where Ben is, you know, not just like have a conversation about it.
I see. Okay, yeah, I was actually gonna jump to that because so again, as they moved through the movie, you know, they still went along with that. I think they went along with the whole mysterious kind of thing, like, you know, drawing out the whole not showing the grievers and mysterious, like what's outside, like why are they here? All these questions, like there's still so many questions, even though they answer a lot of those questions. And obviously, I think reading the books helped because again, you know all the answers to these questions, at least if you've read them recently.
Yeah.
And to me, I thought it was I don't know. I thought it was kind of neat, at least to me, when Ben, when he attacks him and he first said like he blamed Thomas, like he's like it's all your fault and everything. Like I don't know, does that draw out any curiosity at all to either of you? Like when he's like when he's just like it's all your fault and you start to see little flashbacks. Not really, or what are your thoughts? So
You mean like why is he blaming him?
Yeah, so like did that make you curious? Like, yeah, why is
Well,
he
yeah,
blaming him?
I mean, it's kind of obvious he's just jealous. Like
Oh.
it's just, I mean, it's pure jealousy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Connor, I don't know if you did that.
I mean, I did like that scene a lot. That's probably one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, I thought that was a good scene, right? When he
yeah, because it kind of sets up like a little bit of the central conflict. Because like it involves like the grievers and like the conflict with like the physical conflict with them, and it involves like the kind of like like a virtual conflict, like like oh, is Thomas like with the bad guys? Like it kind of sets that up a little bit. And also like I also thought that was one of the better action scenes when they're like fighting each other. I didn't really like the griever action scenes, so I thought that like when he was fighting Ben, that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, because I don't know, I thought it was, at least to me, like it brought out a little bit of curiosity. Like, all right, you see these little flashbacks of like, who is this girl that he's seeing? Like, oh, this is pretty modern in the back, and then you see Ben blaming him, like, you know, like it's all your fault and stuff. And you know, I just thought that was, you know,
I mean, it kind of was
intriguing, right? I know, yeah, right. It kind of was, right?
It kind of was.
That's another point.
And he admits it too, though. He does admit it.
Yeah, that's another point to bring up. Like if you were there, would you blame Tom? Would you be mad at Thomas? Would you blame him, or would you be like?
I'd be like, what? Like all this stuff is happening now that you're here.
So you'd be with Gally,
So you'd be
Greg.
with Gally. That's it.
No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Huh?
But I
Okay.
would not, because I know that we'd have to like act and like do something.
Mhm.
But it still doesn't change the fact that it's because that Thomas is there. I mean,
I do heavily sympathize with Gally because I feel like if I'd been living there for a while and I'm like, this kid is coming, he's like trying to change things up. Like, what does he know? You know, like
Yeah.
he has. I really sympathize with Gally. I thought he was a good character. You know.
I did too. I wrote down that I thought he was he did a pretty good job as Gally. Although I will say I liked it more in the first half. I think in the second half he ended up being like the kind of person that was like change equals bad, and I don't know. I wish, because in the books it was more along the lines of like he knew, because he got stung as well in the books earlier, and he found out that Thomas was associated with Wicked, and so he knew, and like I kind of wish it went along the lines of like him just not trusting Thomas more. I mean, I don't know.
I
I feel
felt
like
like
it
that's
was
how it was. It's weird
okay.
because now the tables have turned and now I'm arguing for it. But let's hear what Greg has to say
well,
about this
I
because
don't
he
know.
has.
All I kept thinking of him was Kenny from We're the Millers. Like, because the guy was in We're the Millers.
Yeah. I know.
He's just totally a not serious character in that.
Yeah.
And so
I thought he did a good job for like the role
Yeah.
he was playing, though. You
I
know.
think he
yeah,
did
no,
a
he
good
did a
job.
really good job. But yeah, no, I don't know. I mean,
I
thought it was just. I give this movie like a C because
Whoa, jumping the
whoa,
gun. But
whoa,
okay,
whoa!
I like to hear
Jumping
it.
the gun here.
that's one of the things, like the reason
Yeah.
I just think it's just kind of predictable. Like, of course, there's gonna be somebody who's
Yeah.
jealous and like against him, and like it's gonna split into factions. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I could kind of like see both sides of it though, which I did like about the movie. I was like, okay, I can see both sides of it. You know.
No, I agree with that. I still wish that I just wish they went along. I feel like it was just oversimplified a little bit with him just not being stubborn and not wanting to leave. I kind of wish it was like more of just him not trusting Thomas. I don't
Yeah.
know. It would have been. I think that would have been kind of more interesting. And I wish they provided more of the examples of like the memories. I'm not going to critique this much because I like the movie probably more than both of you. But when he's talking to Albie after he got stung, and Albie goes like, I think he was talking about how he doesn't want to leave, right? I think he mentioned like, we don't know. Like Thomas is like, we're gonna get out of here. And I think Albie said something like he looked at him like he didn't want to or something. And like in the books, like he talked more about it. And I get they're pressed for time, but I wish like they like he was talking about it and they showed like little cuts of like what he's talking about, like of the outside, little snippets of like
I
what he
guess.
saw. I think that would have been cool. But
I think it, like we're supposed to be
I
with
don't know.
Thomas, you know, like it's
I
supposed to be
know.
from his perspective.
I know,
So.
yeah. I get it. So yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Do you have anything to say about the memories, Greg?
Yeah, is there anything?
The fleeting memories. Yeah, I felt like
Yeah.
we could have like had a little more of that.
Interesting.
I mean, although the part when it showed Thomas, what's her name again?
Teresa?
Teresa.
Yeah, Thomas and Teresa, though. I felt like that was like that made up for it because that was a very like you could put that together pretty easily. Like the other memories, I'm kind of just like,
Interesting.
Yeah, I felt like that was very important. And I also was like,
Okay.
in the beginning, I was like, damn, this is like one big frat going on here.
Yeah.
Like
the first night, and they're all like having fun with like the bonfire.
Yeah.
And then a girl comes, and they're all like, oh my gosh.
I actually thought that the memories like were some of the most like off-putting parts for me, where I was like, okay, just get back to the Maze stuff. Like that's what I want to know about. Because maybe it's because I already know about Wicked and all that stuff as like a reader of the books. Like I just want to see like the presentation of the Maze and like their conflicts there and stuff. And also, I'm not a big fan of Teresa in general, so maybe that's part of the fact that I didn't like.
Well, I don't know if she was the best, but I did like. The one thing I did like is when she first got there. Just the whole everything. I liked everything that happened when she first got there. Like all of their like initial shock. Like why is she here? Like something's again wrong. It furthers like the whole thing with like Gally not like trusting Thomas, which I liked. She knew Thomas's name, which I thought was also kind of like a cool little thing. And then when she's up in that like treehouse style thing, and Thomas goes up there, and I
where'd
thought
she
it
get all
was
those
neat.
rocks though? She's
I
like
know.
throwing like
There were a lot of
rocks.
tomatoes and rocks.
I thought that was cheesy. I thought that was pretty cheesy.
Okay, I thought it was.
They were all just like, oh, and like they were like being shot at by her, and like they're just standing there, be like, oh.
Like, how did she get up there and bring all those rocks? Like she was like asleep in the
But that's besides the point. Okay, I thought it was cool when, if you notice, Thomas begins talking to her. He says a lot of the same things that Albie says to him when he first got there, and I thought that was kind of neat. Like he kind of
yeah.
played the Albie role for a few minutes with Teresa, and I just thought that was kind of cool. Kind of, I don't know.
That was a
I
pretty
just thought it
slow
was kinda neat.
scene though.
It was.
I got pretty bored
I
and like
guess.
during that scene. I was like, okay, like it's cool that they have that kind of like symmetry going on here, but also like it's going on for a while, and I'm like ready for them to like.
Yeah.
I think it's just Teresa as a character just bored me,
Maybe.
and I was
I
like,
wish because in the books they had telepathy, him and Teresa.
yes, they
Which
did.
I
remember
really
that.
wish
remember that.
really wish that they did that there. I think that would have been a lot
Yeah.
better. Like, right?
Yeah.
If they
Did you know that,
imagine
Greg?
No, but they should replace some with like the pointless like mind flashbacks, like maybe with their telepathy. Like that.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
I wouldn't replace those. I would have them realize the telepathy like when he goes up there or something, or maybe even later. Like that would have been cool, like an underlying thing, because in the books no one knows about it for quite a
Yeah.
while, and only the two of them know.
I
And
think
thought that
also like it would
was-
have been another thing to be like, whoa, like what's happening? You know, like they would have. It's another
Yep.
question that needs answering, which I think
Mm.
they already had enough questions. You know.
Yeah, so I think we can all agree, like as the movie goes on, especially after Thomas comes back from the maze with Albie and Minho, that it kind of divides into two pretty separate
Yeah.
factions, right?
Yes.
With like Thomas and Minho, and then Gally, and then I guess Newt kind of tried to mediate
Bridged
for a
it a
minute,
little
but
bit,
he was pretty much on Thomas's side. That was pretty
yeah,
clear.
I agree.
I don't know. Is there anything that you guys wanted to mention about?
Newt
sorry.
was like the second in command.
What about
What
that?
about him being second command?
I thought that was just kind of funny. Like he does not. I don't know how he got there. Like he seems kind of like weak and
Oh, really?
not like a leader type. Which, I mean,
I thought
he seemed kind of clever. I thought
he did, but like he didn't have that like.
Do you wish he played a bigger role? Do you wish he we saw more of his like leadership?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I could see that, Greg.
I could see that, but again, I suppose.
He kind of just functioned as like a tool for Thomas's character development. Like everything he did was like in service of Thomas and his journey, you know.
I was just kind of assumed that he was the de facto like senior, like he had seniority. Yeah, I just kind of assumed that.
It seems like that's how.
I suppose. I wanted to point out one other thing. I did like when Thomas was in the hole, as they called it, right? I believe with
the pit.
It was the pit. My bad. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway, Chuck was talking to Thomas there.
I also thought that was a slow scene, but continue.
No, I thought that was good. I liked it because it totally it foreshadowed what was going to happen later on. Because Chuck explicitly he has his little figurine from his parents, right? And he doesn't remember his parents, and he goes, "Here, I'm gonna give this to you." Basically said, "I'll give this to you, because so that you can give it to my parents for me."
But
like,
that was
so explicit foreshadowing. And then
it was too much, and that's why it's predictable sometimes.
But was it too much if you hadn't seen the movie before? And then Thomas goes, no, you're gonna give this to them yourself. Would you really go like? Would everyone really go like, okay, this guy's dead? Like,
well, because I don't know, but like, why else would you have that scene there?
Very predictable what was gonna happen.
I mean, you could have that scene there to just show, that Chuck has a little bit of like a background to go back to. Maybe you'll see that later on. I don't know.
But that's the only what do you say, Greg?
Predictable.
That's the only scene like we actually get of Chuck though. Like he's supposed to be like this really important character to Thomas, and you see that in the books. They have this like relationship, but they don't really have any other scenes together besides like him explaining stuff to Thomas in the beginning, and then that scene, and then Chuck dies at the end, and I'm like, well.
Right.
I don't really care because I didn't really get to see their relationship or Chuck as a character.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like that death scene did not have as much weight as it could have.
Yeah.
I just felt like they kind of left that.
They needed some more time, I suppose. But I will say, like, you have to keep in mind that death scene, and I'm hoping this is true, and I'm pretty sure it is. Chuck didn't voluntarily go in front of the bullet. Chuck was forced to by Wicked. So was and Gally was like forced to shoot as well. That's how it. That's what.
I mean, but if we're
That's
taking
how it
this movie
works.
as like by itself, you know,
Well,
like
yeah, but I don't think that's. I don't know if that's necessarily the fairest thing to do. Is it?
yeah. I mean, but like I haven't seen the sports trials in a while, and I haven't seen the Death Cure.
Mm,
So like
Third one?
watching this movie, I just felt like it wasn't that as impactful as it could have been. You know?
okay.
What's the third one?
The third one was the Death Cure, which I did.
Yeah.
We saw that as well. We saw that
I
together.
did not see that actually.
Oh, I
Who
was
did I
like,
see it? Who did I see it with then?
I don't know.
Oh, I guess I saw it with other people. But one thing that I thought they did, I liked. I guess I'm jumping around a little bit here. My apologies. Is like is when they're at the end and they're in the Wicked headquarters and it's all destroyed and everything, and you have Ava. I think it's Ava Page is her full name.
Yeah, that's what I know.
Chancellor
Yeah.
Page, and she gives them that whole message, and then she shoots herself and everything's destroyed, and they see her
Mhm.
body there, and then they run out after Chuck dies and everything, and like they escape, and the guy's like, everything's gonna change now, you're safe. I liked that a lot. I liked that, and it's cliche and everything, but I wish that they didn't show at the end. I wish they didn't show everyone that like Paige was alive and like they were going to phase two. I wish that they had kept the audience in the dark
I
so that you go
agree.
into the second movie and you have no idea, you think they're free and everything, and then like a
Yeah.
third or 40% away into that movie you reveal it, or you find out with them that they're still a part of Wicked's
Yes.
game.
Yes.
I think that would have been really cool.
right, but
Also, like it's all been from Thomas's perspective up until then, and then it's just
So
like
yeah, so then why do we get that?
I
Yeah.
know, but part of it, like a characteristic of these movies is like that you always have to end on like this cliffhanger.
I know.
Yeah.
I wish they
It's
didn't.
and they're like so intertwined. It's like a lot of this movie is like set up for the next movie, and I kind of wish it was more self-contained and like more self-sustained.
Really?
You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't mind. I actually liked that it's set up for the next movie. I just wish the next movie was better
Yeah.
because they, at least in my opinion, they went a little off the rails with like in terms of like following what the book had, and it just I think once they got away from the book, they realized they messed
I know
up.
it sounds like I dislike this movie, but I actually think it's okay. I mean, I don't know about
Okay.
Greg, but
Oh yeah. I also thought it was ironic, like it just kind of the way they portrayed like Chancellor Page is like that she mentioned. I didn't expect this many survivors, and there were like 8 of them. It's like,
She was also in House of Cards.
it's like, all right,
oh, fun fact from Greg.
Fun fact.
Greg, who did she play?
She played like Claire's like friend slash like assistant. I don't even know.
I didn't remember. I don't remember that. I'm so
She's
sorry.
very much that like
I feel.
that like dystopian like antagonist type.
I know what you mean. Yeah. But I thought it was
Oh.
funny how she went so many survivors, and there were like 8 of them.
Yeah.
I
And
know.
it's just
You want
like
one?
it just shows that she like, has total lack for like like empathy and like what they're going through and everything.
Ryan, I just thought of another example where I was like, oh, they should have shown that, not just
Okay.
told us, which is when the runners quit. Like I would have wanted to see a scene that was like where they're like,
Really?
we're done, like we're quitting. Because
I
then it
thought
would
that
be
was
like,
okay.
I don't know. That's just like an example.
I thought that was a pointless line. I didn't need to know that.
I
the
mean, it
runners
didn't
quit.
really factor into the story, but like,
I didn't need to know that the runners quit. What did that do? They didn't even.
I mean,
need to
it's just an
quit.
example of like stuff that they told us instead of like showing us. Like, I'm not necessarily saying that they had to like show that in particular, but there was a lot of that kind of like talk in there.
I wish they showed more of them working. Like I wish when
Mm.
he was like, "Here are the slicers, were the ones who like slice all the meat and everything and all the food."
Mm.
I wish they showed like while he's narrating that, I wish they like showed them working for a little bit.
Right. But yeah.
Kind
that
of
did come to mind.
because it's a lot easier. Connor's right. It's a lot easier putting like an image to something than it is just hearing
Yeah.
it said.
How did they get to that position?
Yeah, exactly.
Slicer.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
is why is
I
he
did-
just Slicer and not like has a really cool job like a maze runner?
Yeah.
Like, why is he stuck
Exactly.
slicing meat all day?
And also, why does he's like nobody wants to be a runner? Like Thomas is the only one who
Out
like
of fear,
wants to be a runner.
lack of curiosity and fear.
Yeah, that's something I noticed is that they were like Thomas was always curious and nobody else was ever curious, which was strange to me because I would think that like everybody that I don't know, I feel
Really?
like
Oh, I
I would be
disagree.
curious going there. I'd be like, oh wow, like what is going on? Like
Well, I think there's
Like,
an
he had
element
this-
of defeat. Like a lot of them are just defeated. and just this
I guess.
this is life.
But when they come in, wouldn't they be like, like what's happening? Like, and why is Thomas like the first one to like do all this stuff? Like, wouldn't other people? There's so many of them, right? Like, wouldn't they have someone who'd be like,
Do what?
I don't know, willing to like save their like nobody else is like willing to risk their
No.
lives for others. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
No, they are, but they.
There was one protagonist
Well,
that's
no,
like intrinsically aware.
Oh, I wouldn't argue that. I would argue that they're there. One, they're there for so long that you're right. There's an element of defeat, but also put yourself in like a position like that, and it's really hard. It's impossible to do it. But just think, if you know there are monsters out in a place out beyond that will kill you, and no one's ever survived from, who's really gonna willingly go out there?
That's true.
For,
but he does
for
a lot of the
like
decisions he makes. Like they do seem brave, but they're like stupid decisions a lot of the
But
time.
Minho acknowledged that as well. He did acknowledge that. He said,
Yeah,
"I don't know if it's stupidity,
but
or
that's kind of
like,
just like a throwaway line to like save him from like."
But yeah, but it was an element
like,
of truth in that. I would argue, right? I mean,
yeah, but that doesn't mean that his actions were like smart. You know what I mean?
oh no, I don't think they were. But I think it was just. I think the point the movie was trying to make, and what the books were trying to do as well, which they obviously did better, was that Thomas was different from all the other people who went before him. I think the movie translated that to being Thomas is more curious than everybody else, right? Instead of more, I think they should have just gone along the lines of he was more innovative, but I guess he was. He was like, you could see, I think Greg was right with the whole defeat thing. It was shown perfectly in Minho.
I can understand that.
In Minho, when they're in the maze, you could see the difference between Thomas and him when they're trying to help Albie and when they're trying to run from the Grievers.
That's true.
Yeah, I think. I thought so.
Yeah. Also, they only saw one Griever like the whole night they were out in the maze. Like that's, I don't know. That's kind of sketchy to me.
See, I agree. I didn't like that they cut from that scene when Thomas he baited him into that closing door and ran.
Yeah.
I wish that they didn't cut from like you cut.
You could have
right
had a
before,
good Thomas and Minho scene there. You know.
Yeah,
you
cut. Yeah, like you cut from it there, and then you could
Yeah.
add Minho and Thomas like something there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I wasn't a big fan of that, and I also just didn't love the way the Grievers looked. I think they were too fast. There could have been more of them in the maze if they were like a little bit slow, like a little bit slower and less like spidery. Because you're right, having one or two, I think they might have shown two, but maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah, and the action would have been easier to follow as well, especially in the dark.
Yes, it was too dark. When they all invaded the glade, I thought it was too dark.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it's nighttime and everything, but just make it so that we can see a little bit. I thought it was.
They were okay. The Grievers were okay looking.
They were fine. I mean, I thought they looked good. It was just practically they weren't the best because they're really fast and.
They're so fast.
Yeah.
They were.
Exactly.
Too fast for being that big.
Yeah. I was gonna. What?
You brought up the point that you think the movie is about or it was trying to be about something. I forget what you said, but then it's actually about Thomas is more curious and innovative and whatnot. Which got me thinking about what I took away is the theme of the movie.
Okay.
Which was when Thomas was giving his speech as they were leaving the glade, towards the end, and he was saying do you want to stay here? I'd rather
die out there
and risk my life than live my life in here, which I thought was what the movie's trying to be about, which is don't stay trapped in your own ways, be willing to take risks.
I totally agree.
That's what it's about. Yeah, even if it isn't the most,
it's more of an underlying theme.
Delivery system. Yeah.
Well, I think that goes off of what I mentioned about Galley, because he was kind of the guy who went against Thomas the most, and I mentioned that he was the one who, to me, it seemed like became with him change equals bad, and so I think
that's the other side of our brains, sometimes where we have that inner conflict, which is do I want to do something different or do I want to
exactly doing? I think that, and I thought that furthers what you said with the whole general theme with you want to try to get out and do new things and not just stay in your little box or in
right.
One other thing. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I also thought that the dialogue overall was pretty it was standard, they said things that were overly dramatic sometimes, and
it was okay. I mean, if there was there either of you, was there an actor in there that you thought was better than the other? Was there one that you're like, okay, this one is the best? Like, was there to you or not? I don't
Well,
know.
I'm not the biggest fan of the actress who plays Teresa because I know she
Yeah,
maybe
me
a
as
five.
well.
And granted, the script for Pirates of the Caribbean does not let you showcase your acting abilities.
Yeah.
But
unless you're Johnny Depp.
yeah, I don't know. But she was okay. I
Well,
there
yeah.
wasn't-
Is there
there wasn't
anyone? No.
anybody that stood out as a poor actor. Like,
Oh, okay. Okay.
I thought that Dylan O'Brien did a good job as the main character. You know.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't like mind blowing or anything, but he did good. He was likable and everything.
Hmm.
And I also thought that guy who did Galley did a really good job as well.
I think he might have been the best one.
Galley.
yeah,
If I had to choose someone
yeah.
who's the best actor,
Yeah.
probably. I kind of want at some point for us to watch the last one, The Death Cure.
I mean, we can. Yeah.
Who said you hadn't seen it? Was it Connor?
Yeah, I haven't seen it. And Greg hasn't seen it.
Oh, neither of you have seen it.
I mean, I forgot I saw the Scourge trials. So maybe
But I think because I feel like we can gauge like the evolution of the characters, or like
Yeah.
I don't know,
Hopefully
I
the
think that would
script
be
writing
neat.
gets better because like there was this one line where they're like talking in the treehouse and then Teresa's like, "What if we were sent here for a reason?" And she like holds out the things and I was like, "Oh my gosh." Or
yeah,
like or at the beginning when they're like explaining to Thomas like the walls closed every night when he's like about to leave and then they like stop him from leaving and then they're all like walking away and Albie's like, "Welcome to the Glade," like all dramatically. They're like, it's like so cheesy.
I didn't mind
sometimes.
that. I didn't
know.
mind that one. But yeah, I suppose I guess maybe.
it was cheesier than the cheeseburger I had today.
I didn't think it was that cheesy. I thought it was pretty
I
average.
mean, it wasn't like super
I thought
noticeable.
I thought it was pretty average rating.
It was just so standard. Like there was nothing special about it. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
they said what I expected them to say.
I agree. And maybe I've watched too many shows and movies with massive twists and stuff.
Right.
But I kind of, like I said about the whole, I wish we learned with them in the second movie that they were still in like the trials with Wicked and everything. I kind of wish there was more. I feel like they handheld you a little bit with trying to teach you everything. And I get that because they were probably worried that people wouldn't understand everything that was going on, which is a fair worry. But I kind of wish that they went more with like a, okay, we're going to lead them on, and hopefully as they watch it, they come to realizations. Because for me as an I don't know about you guys, but to me, I love when you're watching something and it doesn't explicitly tell you something, but you learn something on your own and it just clicks. And I just think that's really neat, being able to
like that.
learn something or realize something without actually being
Agree.
straight up told it, just kind of compiling. So I kind of wish they did something like that. But
what were you going to bring up earlier? Or what were you going to say, Greg?
Greg, were you going to say anything or not?
I forgot. I don't know.
Okay. You were going to bring up something though, Ryan. You were about to say like you were going to ask us something. Like
what was I going to say? Well, to be fair, I have a lot of I had a lot more small things that I wish they changed than I thought I would. I suppose to me
that's coming from a book reader though.
Yeah, and I suppose to me what I was gonna say is, this is again from the perspective of someone who read the books. I really liked how they brought a lot of the book terminology into the movie. I don't know if you noticed.
You mean like their slang, like the slang they use?
Yes. I don't know if either of you noticed, but they use some like different language, right? They use like, for example, instead of like, so for like the heads of the groups, like the slicers and the runners and everything, they called them keepers, and they used like greenies for the newest person,
Greenie's like a pretty common term for a new person though, I feel like.
Okay, yeah, no, it is, but just that they all call them that is just like
what did you think of that, Greg, of like their different words for stuff? Like,
yeah, and they call them like shank, like they call each other that.
Yeah, I was wondering what that.
That was just like a slang thing that they use to call, like they call each other that. Yeah,
it's like their bad words, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's like their curse words.
Greenie, like, I thought it was interesting how they did not throw a nickname upon Teresa when she came in.
Oh,
that's true.
She deserves her respect.
It was like an
element
of respect because she was a woman. Like, I think they were all just Yeah,
I think they also just didn't like know how to react or like
right.
yeah, and
Mhm. Ed Thomas had just become the greenie, like what, 3 or 4 days prior. So
yeah.
I suppose that makes sense. But I thought that was neat. Like the Glade. There's just a lot of like new terminology that I thought made it a little more
Yeah.
Right.
unique-ish. So I thought that was kind of neat.
That was cool.
I think overall it was a decent movie. Like I didn't dislike it.
Like it's not something you would rewatch again in a month.
No.
But it's something like, all right, like
Yeah.
it was okay. I had fun.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys, which is like, because they kind of explained towards the end, like Wicked, basically they're doing all these tests on kids because like they're a new generation who like could be immune to like the flare and stuff like that. And I mean, I don't really understand, like they didn't really explain well like exactly why they're doing like these crazy tests for like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can explain it better, Ryan. Like, why? Like, I don't understand. Like, what
Well,
was the necessity of like the maze trials for them to like test these
so
kids?
Greg, I want to ask Greg that. Greg, did you understand why they did the maze trials on these kids? Because you remember the chancellor had that video, right,
Oh
explaining
yeah,
the
I understood
virus, and
the virus and like their
yeah. So
generation wasn't able to fight
could
it,
you
but
could you piece together why they were testing the kids or no?
kind of. Yeah, kind of. I didn't get the full picture.
Because I was wondering, just because you haven't read the books, so I was wondering if someone who's only seen the movie, like, did
I
it
do.
make sense?
I mean, it does. I just don't understand. Like, what are they trying to do? Like, get the kids like immunity? Like, get them like.
Okay,
Like,
so
are they just trying to weed out like
that's interesting.
the strongest and most clever
No, so
people? Like,
what their goal was. So all of those kids are immune, right?
okay,
So all those kids in the maze trials are immune.
yeah.
Um, so they didn't explicitly say that there.
Was the injection the virus?
No, that was actually like a cure from the Griever thing. That actually wasn't.
Oh no! I
Uh,
mean, like, was the Griever thing the virus that they
oh,
injected into the kid?
uh,
I don't think so.
no. It did. I don't like
It
that
looks
because
similar.
it looks similar, which yeah. So I understand why you would say that, but no, it was not.
Darn, that would have been a cool thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been kind of neat. I know that they have some controls in there, like so there's some people who aren't immune as
Yeah.
like a control group, which they keep which they don't say until future movies, which
Yeah.
I think is good. But yeah, they didn't explicitly say that they were immune.
And they didn't really. I don't know. I just feel like they didn't explain the
the
purpose of like
the
the maze
reason the
trials.
reason they did the maze trials is because those kids were immune. They needed to test. They needed to put them into certain situations so that their brain would hopefully, in reacting in certain ways, they would get for some reason the results they would get from their brain reacting to certain situations. You know, they were in super high stress situations constantly, right? I think they were
Yeah.
hoping to trigger something, and maybe I think that would allow them to
They were trying to see like
get a
the
cure.
differences in the brains to like find a cure or something like that.
Yes, they were trying to
Okay.
map out like how their brain worked differently or why, and hope and lead to a cure. Is
Hmm.
what they is kind of what I gathered
Hmm.
from the books.
What do you think about the morality of that?
That's an interesting thing, right? I think the movies and the books make it out to be bad, testing the immune kids and putting them through these situations
I mean, some of them died.
and
Like,
killing them, right?
yeah,
For a cure for the whole world, right? So
yeah.
I don't know, Greg. Is that a moral
Yeah,
thing
Cause
to
or
do?
yeah,
Testing on these immune kids?
it's a
Uh,
moral issue.
yeah, I mean, what do you think? Is
do
it
you
moral
like? Do you?
to test on these
Yeah.
kids to get a cure? Like, is it worth it?
Oh,
Is it?
yeah, no, it's very immoral, but I just feel like I'm not surprised by that because I don't think that's an issue because like
Mm.
a lot of these things like in these movies are immoral. Like they're basically test
But
subjects.
like, if you were in that situation, if you were like,
What side would you be on?
yeah, would you be like, yeah, let's test these kids because we need to find a cure, or would
I'd
you
be
be
like,
like, I'm
no,
not
it's
risking the
not.
lives of these
I'm
kids?
not risking the lives of these kids.
I feel like Ryan would be on the other side.
I
Me too.
think. See, you're put in that situation, and the easiest answer, especially if you're right in front of all those kids, is you want to protect those kids. But it's a very difficult balance because it's either don't harm the kids, or, and I don't know why I don't know why you can't just like take like I don't know why you can't like take blood from them and figure out a way to develop a
Yeah.
cure. But
Or like
regardless,
put them in stressful situations that don't involve them dying or something like
yeah,
that.
or
You
at least
know?
like even give them the fear of death, but don't actually like risk
Yeah.
them dying. You know what I mean? Yeah, I totally understand why they're testing on the kids, because they want to cure the entire world, and that's the end goal, and that should be the end goal. And I don't want to talk about it in case we end up doing the third movie eventually, but that
Spoil-
dilemma
Also,
moves.
this is a touchy subject given the state of the world currently. So
Yeah, that's true. But that dilemma moves on to the third movie, and it's interesting what direction they take,
yeah.
and it's interesting just kind of morally, where would you stand if you were the kids? How would you feel now, or after that third movie? How would you feel? And if you're like the rest of the world, how would you feel if these kids who are being tested are being uh, taken from the people that are testing on them to hopefully cure the entire world, and you're out here hoping not to get infected each day, and these kids
Yeah.
just get like taken in by another group,
I
like at
like
the end of
that.
this first one, and they're safe. How's that fair? So it's an interesting
I
kind
mean,
of
I
thing.
like to think that, like,
Hmm.
if they're immune, like, humanity's going to survive, right? There are kids who are immune. So,
In the books they say it's 1% of
yeah.
the population, so it's not like it's a minuscule, it's about 1%, so it's
Yeah. I mean, I'm
yeah.
not saying that it's okay for all the people, like, to get the disease and die and stuff. Like, they should be working towards a cure, but it's not like, if we don't find a cure, humanity's going to die out. It's not that type of situation.
But then it becomes like this: if you're a person who's not immune and you're just
Yeah.
sitting here in your house, and the whole world's descending into chaos around you,
Yeah.
like, because this disease has no cure and it kills everyone that it gets,
I mean,
you know?
if I get certain types of cancer, there's no cure and I'll probably die within a certain time period.
Yeah, but
But I don't want to like kill people to find a cure to cancer,
I
you
agree with
know?
but
that.
I mean, but I would argue that that's a little bit different, only because uh, most forms of cancer, or at least cancer in general, uh, uh, people recovery rates have gone up pretty significantly, especially in the last, I would say, like decade. They've gone up in a lot of
Sure, but
cases
my
pretty
point is that
significantly.
there are illnesses that it's very hard to survive from.
Oh yeah, I know.
Um,
But this one, like, no matter what kind, there's no like, oh, what kind
yeah.
is it? Like, like,
I
I'm
mean,
dead.
I know this might be a controversial thing, but sometimes I think that like if it's time, it's time. Like
Oh, I don't disagree with that, actually.
Me either. I mean, that's
I actually
basically
don't.
the question.
Is it bad that we all agree with that? But yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. So yeah, it's an interesting, right? And I think
yeah,
that
I don't know if there's a right answer,
what I
but
like about
Not
this
a
book,
bad thing.
what I like about these this book, this movie and the whole series, and I wish what they did a little bit better was just kind of, it's a big like moral dilemma they have going on throughout all of these, right?
yeah.
Like, who
I
side do
definitely
you
think that
take?
Wicked is going about it in a very poor way though.
Oh, they are a very crude way, right?
Yeah.
And what you don't realize, and what Connor and I have read, because there's a prequel to this, I don't know if Connor remembers this, Wicked, in accordance with other governments, actually unleashed the virus on the world. So like
Ooh.
it's kind of asking for it almost. It's almost like,
What's
look what,
happening
like,
now?
you did this to yourself, right? And now you're experimenting on kids and killing them, right? From something you
Yeah.
did to try to control the population or reduce the population. Like,
Mhm.
so
Food for thought.
it's it's very interesting, and we got off topic a little bit, but
I think it's relevant because it's like it
no,
brings up
it's
these moral issues and stuff.
and
So.
I like that a lot. That
That is
when
a
movies
redeeming
do,
aspect of this film.
but I still wish they did a little bit better. Uh, but yeah, I I don't know.
We want to wrap up with our final thoughts and give our grades for the film.
Sure, sure. We'll let Greg go ahead. We'll let Greg
Yeah.
go ahead.
We're doing like the, I don't know,
Yeah,
100%
give
thing.
it give
Give
it
it
a
a
grade,
percentage
and then
and
just
say what you think of it.
just a short explanation.
So I gave it a C. Okay, so I think overall it was entertaining. The acting was pretty good. Um, I'm just going through the things I usually like use to like rate my experience.
Yeah, do your
Uh,
thing, Greg.
It was dramatic,
Yeah, it was.
but I
Was
do
it
think
dramatic?
there were a lot of unknowns, and I know that's natural for these kind of movies, but that just kind of bothers me. I feel like there's more unknowns that there, as we talked about, like there should have been. Even they could have done a little more with those flashbacks. I still was kind of sitting there like, okay, like
Don't forget the
yeah,
predictability.
yeah, the predictability, and I don't know, the predictability element just kind of takes away a little bit of my attention, I guess, like my like investment in like the film when I'm watching it. So with all that said, I think I'll give it a C, and I guess that would put it in the 70s range, probably a 74.
Wow. Okay, so to give context, last week he gave Iron Man 1 an 82%. So this was
Yes.
8% worse than Iron Man 1.
Wow,
Interesting.
only 8% worse.
Only
then.
8% worse.
Wow.
That makes me even more controversial. Okay, Connor.
You want me to go ahead first?
Would you like me to go? I can go.
No, I can do it. No, I'll go ahead because yeah, we'll just end with you.
Okay.
I mean, I agree with Greg that it was pretty predictable. I think it was dramatic, like Greg said, but sometimes a little bit overly dramatic. I mean, I know they're in a stressful situation, but I just mean the dialogue sometimes was overly dramatic. I think that like it was entertaining though. Like there were scenes that I was like, oh yes, like the Ben scene, I like that a lot, and I liked like learning about their world. And sometimes it was like a little bit too kind of like expositional, as I said. Like that was one of the problems I had. A lot of the explaining was done. But I did like the like themes and like questions it had behind it. And not that necessarily comes from the movie itself, more so from like the author of the book. Like he brought those, and I just think this movie was better as a book because of the like this like the world that they live in, and like having this person with no memories having to kind of like learn all this stuff. It was just like a lot of information to take in.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed the movie. I don't think it was a bad movie. I just think that like I would rather watch a lot of other movies because
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
this one kind of it gets slow sometimes. I think overall I would give it I'd probably give it a C as well, but maybe somewhere around like 76. Yeah.
Very
Maybe around a
generous.
76.
13 points worse than Iron Man 1, which he gave an 89.
Yes.
An 89. Okay. So my grade. What did I think of this movie? I loved the books, so I'm a little biased, but I really thought that I liked the whole mystery of it all in the first 20-25 minutes. I thought that was cool. To me, like that keeps you engaged. Not for like it gets old, but for a time, I think it keeps you engaged with that, which I think did a good job. I don't really think that it was too. I don't think it went too. I don't think it went too hard on like the whole dialogue, like explaining thing. To me, I thought they maybe could have showed some more stuff, but I thought for the most part, the only thing in terms of that they did bad was not showing the grievers earlier. I thought it was slow once or twice when they were in the maze. It was slow a little bit. But I mean, to me, like you said, the Ben scene, fantastic. I liked when they banished him as well. That was really good. I thought that was cool. And I like
That
the
has some
whole.
morality
I thought the
questions, too.
underlying. It does, yeah. There's a lot of questions that a lot of their actions raise, and a lot of the actions of both the antagonist and the protagonist, which I think is cool. And you can take both sides, which I also think is cool. Again, I think knowing what the second movie did, it makes me want to put this lower, because if the second movie was better, I would put this higher, because it's just they're so interconnected. It frustrates me. But I guess
I think they're too interconnected. But go ahead.
Okay. I mean, I don't mind it being interconnected. I just think that they botched it in the second one. But anyway, I would give it. So I gave Iron Man 1 an 86. I'd give this I'd give it an 80. I would.
Oh.
I'd give it an 80. And that's just because I can rewatch this movie. I think it's pretty suspenseful at times. I think it's a little slow sometimes, and I think the dialogue's pretty average. But I'd argue that average dialogue and a decent amount of like suspense and a cool world that going into the second movie you don't know what they're gonna do next. I'd argue that that's pretty like, all right, I'd go back and watch that second one. Like I'd watch it, and we did go watch the second one like right as it came out or around the time it came out.
Don't even remember it at all.
I just remember talking to one of our friends about the Chancellor walking around at the end. But yeah, so I thought it was pretty. I thought it was pretty solid. But obviously there were a bunch of there were a handful of things they could have
Makes me
fixed.
want to drop my grade down because it's so close to yours, but I won't do that.
Well, I'd say 4 points is a fair amount. I bet
Yeah.
that's a decent. That's a
Yeah.
little gap right there. Yeah.
And with that, we have a B- C movie.
Yeah.
Sure. A solid movie that was entertaining enough, but it could see some improvement
I agree.
overall.
All
Yeah.
right.
It was a good movie for discussion though.
It was. No, it was. I thought so too.
You guys got much more invested in that movie. Like,
Yeah, I know. It's not really your thing, Greg, though, is it? Like
Yeah.
the dystopian type stuff, right?
not as much, no. But
especially like
I thought it was entertaining.
You
The
also haven't seen the
mindless
books
action.
too, so
I haven't read the books. So I don't have that extra like
mhm,
background.
background knowledge.
Maybe it'd have a B- if I did, but
yeah,
Maybe.
that's fair. But
But
you
I think it does pander to book readers a little more.
yeah.
anyway.
Oh, anyway. Well, I mean, I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah.
I think so.
I don't know if anyone has any final thoughts, but if not, I think we can just kind of sign off here and move on to
And
next
we'll get
week.
on to
we're-
next week's.
we're gonna move.
Next
Yeah,
week's
we're gonna.
club.
Huh?
yeah.
It's like a book club. Next week's book club.
Next week's
Yep.
next
back
week's
with-
talk show.
Yeah, we'll be back with the third episode of the talk show next week. I hope everybody enjoyed, and maybe someone will go watch The Maze Runner if they're bored.
Yes.
It's if you're
Yeah,
bored,
if you haven't seen it, it's worth checking out probably.
yeah, it's
You'd
worth.
be really
it's-
bored, but yeah, I'm just kidding.
it's worth it to check
Hey,
it out.
watch it with someone else. That'll be
And if you can get to the third movie, I think the third movie is honestly the best out of the three. So with that,
we will see eventually.
yes, we will see eventually. And with that, we're gonna wrap it up. But thanks everyone for watching, and we'll
See
see
you
you
later.
again next week.
All right, see you later.